What's up, YouTube? Social Justice Water Pipe here. All right, so we have something a little different for tonight. Normally, when I'm attending council meetings, it's in person. But here in North Plainfield, where I'm running as an independent candidate for council at large, they sometimes do a Zoom meeting. It's either an in-person meeting or it's a Zoom meeting. Tonight happens to be a Zoom meeting. So I will not be attending in person, but I will be attending on the computer here at 7:30 in 5 minutes. So I figured let's do a live stream, just like I do when I'm normally at a meeting. And you guys can watch the meeting with me on the computer here, since it's a Zoom meeting. So far here in North Plainfield, I announced that I was running as an independent candidate during the first meeting of the year back in the beginning of January. And I wound up on one of the North Plainfield official pages, township pages on Facebook. I wound up writing in the comments section, notifying residents that there would, possibly be a different option for a candidate coming up in the November election. So I wrote on the post in the comments section, please follow my campaign page from my campaign profile. Within a day, the township disabled comments on all of their posts. I've lived here for over a year and a half. And ever since I've lived here, they've always had commenting on all of their posts on their official township page. The second that I wind up announcing my candidacy to residents on the township forum, like our public forum, right? This public forum belongs to residents. They wind up illegally disabling comments, right? Because if you've been watching my channel for a minute, you know that this is an issue that happens quite often. The Supreme Court has already ruled that these are public forums. Supreme Court case Linkey versus Freed established that these online social media pages are public forums. If a elected official is representing themselves in their official capacity, or a township agency like a police department or the borough itself, these are public forums. So you can't disable comments, you can't delete comments, and they've always had commenting turned on forever. Until I announced my independent candidacy for council at large, they disabled all the comments, simply because I'm notifying residents of a possible different option in November. Now, running as an independent candidate already had the odds incredibly stacked against me. Phil Murphy, before he wound up leaving office, Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, for anybody who's watching who's not from New Jersey, our governor wound up passing some legislation that makes it more difficult for independent candidates to get on the ballot. This new legislation now requires that I get 250 signatures to be put on the ballot, whereas before it would have been 50. So the governor of New Jersey made it that much more difficult for independent candidates to try to get themselves on the ballot. Odds are already incredibly stacked against me, especially with this new legislation. So the township decided to go to such lengths to violate the First Amendment and Supreme Court cases, as I just mentioned, Linkey versus Freed, and Ratcliffe O'Connor versus Grenier. Those are two Supreme Court cases that established that these are public forums and you can't disable comments, you can't block, you can't delete. These are public forums. These are considered public records. With the New Jersey, a couple other cases, Kelly Yade versus Hamilton, same issue, Carteret versus Ronco. These are all court cases that established exactly what I'm saying, is you can't block comments, you can't disable comments. Now, if one of these township pages wound up starting off from the inception of never having the option of commenting, that would be different. They're not required to have their comments turned on, but the second that they turn the comments off, it winds up being viewpoint discrimination, because now you've just done it on a certain post. And in this instance, in North Plainfield here, they shut off comments once I notified residents of my independent candidacy, simply alerting them that there could be a possible different option come November. you know, fighting the establishment, fighting the two-party system. And the township goes to these lengths to discourage my efforts. And it's a slap in the face to the residents. It's not just a slap in the face to me, you know. I pay my taxes. I do what's expected of me. And I already have the odds stacked against me, especially with this new legislation that Phil Murphy passed, requiring that I get 250 signatures. So the township decided to make it that much more difficult for me to get on the ballot by disabling comments, by violating the law, to stifle my reach to residents. I mean, can I just lose with dignity, right? Like, this is not going to be an easy fight here, fighting the establishment, trying to get on the ballot and trying to get elected. You know, it's not necessarily like I plan to learn a lot of things about myself. I plan to learn a lot of things about this process, and then ultimately can serve as a resource for somebody else who maybe decides to go down that road. Hey, what's up, Leroy? Just telling all the viewers how I have my North Plainfield meeting right now on Zoom. It's about to start. And the township page disabled comments after I alerted residents about my independent candidacy. Just said, hey, follow my campaign page. You know, just notifying them that there could be a possible different option come November. First, I have to get on the ballot. After Phil Murphy passed that legislation, making it that much more difficult for independent candidates to get on the ballot. Now I need 250 signatures. Before it was just 50. So I already have the odds incredibly stacked against me, and the township decided to violate the First Amendment, violate Supreme Court cases like Linkey versus Freed, Ratcliffe O'Connor versus Grenier, state cases, Bronco versus Carteret, Yade versus Hamilton. You can't disable comments. They were already on, and they only disabled comments when I alerted residents of a possible different choice come November. So this meeting is going to be starting soon here, 7:30. It's kind of a short meeting. I looked at the agenda here. And like I said, normally at the meeting, normally on my videos when I live stream, you know, I'm in person at the meeting, but they don't have an in-person option for tonight's meeting. So that's fine. We'll just do what we normally do. We'll live stream this meeting as we're doing. And when the meeting gets started, we will watch together and we'll wait for public comments. And I will express my frustrations over the township's choice to disable comments. Let's see what this says here. Even if you don't get elected, use what you learned for the next election. So don't give up. Exactly. That's the whole point. I have odds incredibly stacked against me as an underdog, and that's fine. I've always really actually done well when I have odds stacked against me as an underdog. So that's fine. But like I said, I want to learn a lot about myself, the process, through this experience of running as an independent candidate. You know, I've been doing the government accountability and transparency advocacy for many years now. Started regularly going to meetings in 2018. And, you know, I had a lot of people always saying over the years, why do you go to other towns? Why don't you just go to your town? You know, and one of the reasons why is because residents are usually hesitant to speak out over issues within their town because they don't want retaliation. Government is absolutely known for retaliating. You know, you go to a meeting, you say something that they don't like. Next thing you know, they send code enforcement over and say your grass is too high, this and that. So you can't touch me in a town I don't live in. But would it have been any different in my own town? Clearly not, because of how they're going about this.
An agenda conference, the Borough Council.
Here we go.
Recording in progress.
This is an agenda conference, the Borough Council North Plainfield. And the first thing we're going to do is do a roll call, please.
Yes, Council President. Corzo. Gibbon.
Oh, she's absent excused. I'm sorry.
Oh. Gibbon is absent excused. VP
Here.
McIntyre.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Miller. Present. Schaefer.
And this entire council is
Council President.
all, make sure I'm muted here,
We have a
actually.
quorum.
Yeah, I'm
We
muted.
conduct business.
They're all Democrats here in
We're
North
gonna do the Pledge of
Plainfield.
Allegiance, so if you're able to and you want to, please feel free to stand. And I know we usually have a flag up there behind Mr. McIntyre. There we go, behind the Vice President. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all. Thank you. Please be seated. So the statement of compliance
All
is
right, let's
this.
get started
This
here.
is a meeting of the Council of the Borough of North Plainfield, scheduled by resolution of the council adopted on November 10th of last year, 2025. Adequate notice of this meeting was given pursuant to NJSA 10:4-6, except, and by transmitting said notice to the Borough of North Plainfield website and to the Courier News on November 24th of 2025, and by posting a copy of this notice on the bulletin boards which are reserved for such purpose in the municipal building and over in the public library. That's a compliance statement, and we did our roll call. We do have a quorum, and so now we go to open the floor to public comment. If any member of the public wishes to make a comment, there's a couple ways you could do that. You could physically wave to us, and we'll give you the floor. Or you can think through Zoom. There's a way to electronically raise your hand. A little hand emoji comes up. And the format is this. We don't mandate, but we simply request. If you wish to, please give us your name, spell your last name, and then give us your address. Each member of the public wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes for that purpose. And public comment can last for a collective 30 minutes altogether. Public comment. I'm sorry, Vince, could you help me?
That's okay. I'll help you out, Skip. It's pronounced Vingileos.
Vingileos. Mr. Vingileos, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Skip. So public comments is in the beginning of the meeting tonight, huh?
Yeah, so you have two meetings tonight. We have an agenda conference and a regular meeting. At the agenda conference, it comes at the beginning, and in a regular meeting, it comes at the end. And the nights where we only have a regular meeting, we don't have like the workshop or agenda conference. It comes all the way at the end of the night. But we actually have two tonight, beginning and end, because we have the two meetings.
Okay, 2 bites at the apple. I like that. I appreciate that clarification. Thank you very much. Good evening, council. Good evening. Is the mayor in attendance tonight or no?
Yes, he is, right up at the top.
I only have so many boxes open here, so I guess I can't see everybody. Good evening, mayor. Good evening, council. Hope you all are doing well. Just wanted to mention a couple of things. As you guys noted, I know, Skip, you were I missed the last meeting. In the beginning of January, you were absent. I announced that I would be running as an independent candidate for council at large. And I wasn't able to make it to the last meeting. I had attended Plainfield, which was on the same night. I had some things that I was working on over there. Won't be going back there anymore. I want to continue to be at these meetings. I know I mentioned, even though you weren't here, I mentioned how they came up with this unconstitutional resolution banning silence, singing, dancing, stuff that was personally meant to target me. But I'm the founder of an organization called the Neutralization of Council Meeting Conduct. And we all showed up. I had a group of us, and we violated all their decorum rules that violates the Constitution. So I pointed them in the right direction in terms of, their corporate counsel giving bad legal advice and stuff like that. Ultimately, my goal when entering a municipality is to leave it a little bit better than I found it. As I am attempting to pull back from other municipalities, I want to focus on North Plainfield here. So one thing I want to mention is I announced on the North Plainfield Borough Township page on Facebook, I announced that I was going to be running and I'm an independent candidate, just alerting residents of a possible option of, a new option come this next election. And I was upset to see that the township page decided to disable comments. I already have the odds stacked against me incredibly as an independent candidate after Phil Murphy passed legislation making it a requirement for me to have 250 signatures to get on the ballot. I would like to at least, attempt to do this with dignity. So I'm alerting the residents about my campaign, and then the township shuts off commenting, and I have a problem with that because I live here. I thought maybe it'd be different in my own town. A lot of times people, they look at anybody who is criticizing them as, somebody who's not being genuine or whatever have you, whatever it may be. I can't speak for other people, but I thought maybe it'd be different here in my town, and I want to work together with you guys. I'm not trying to do anything other than what I'm required to do. and just give myself the best opportunity to get myself on the ballot, get the signatures. And like all I did was just alert the residents of my campaign page. And I mean, there's Supreme Court cases that already say that these are public forums, so these pages belong to the people. Linkey versus Freed, 2024, Ratcliffe O'Connor versus Grenier already established that these are public forums. There's state level cases, Ronco versus Carteret, Yade versus Hamilton. You can't disable comments. So we disabled comments on all of the posts once I announced and just notified residents that they have a different option. So I would like to, last meeting I asked as a show of hands who thought that these meetings should be televised and made available for the public after the meetings concluded so people can see what's going on at these meetings. Because I don't know if you guys are doing a good job or not. And if you are doing a good job, we should be showing the public this. Unfortunately, Mr. McIntyre was the only one who raised his hand, and I congratulate him for doing so, because I'm just communicating something simple. I would think we would all be on the same page with this. But I would like to maybe do this again as a show of hands, but a different question. Who thinks that it's okay to shut off commenting on the official township page? Who thinks that's okay as a show of hands? Okay, I'm glad I worded it differently because that means we're all on the same page that it's not okay. So I would like to possibly have some clarification as to why that was done, who made that decision, and try to just get some clarification over that. I already got the odds incredibly stacked against me. Let me lose with dignity. Let me at least alert the residents of an option. I'm not asking for much. You know what I mean? I don't want to be treated as, somebody who doesn't deserve an opportunity, kind of thing or whatever. I guess other than that, I'll just mention too, a resident had reached out to me and said that she lives on Girard Road, and she was saying that she wanted me to mention that no plows made it down her streets today. I guess there was a truck, but it got stuck, and then they had to push it out, but it ultimately never made it down her street. I said I would let you guys know about that. But other than that, I just want to know what we can do about turning the comments back on so we can have communication on our public forum. And that's about it, Skip.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for letting us know about Girard Avenue. We appreciate that. And I'm gonna, if the mayor wants to respond, I know I'd seen your post on the police department's your post about the comments being shut off on a previous post. I don't know if the police department was talking to doesn't matter what their post was about. It was about this coming snowstorm or something. I saw your post and I reached out to the mayor because I'm in agreement. I don't know. I'm not going to debate. I believe you. I wouldn't presume to debate you on this, but I don't know if we have to have them on the comments. I think we should, irrespective. And I asked the mayor, I'm like, hey, how do these get turned off? So he said he was going to look into it because I don't presume to speak for Mayor Laurent, but I think he agreed too that like it somehow we don't shut off the comments on stuff. Yeah. Because people will sometimes, depending on the post, someone will write in with a follow-up comment. I mean, sure. Sometimes stuff is trivial. Like for instance, I know the police sometimes when they get a lost dog, they post pictures of the lost dog and say, look, we're looking for the owner of this dog. This dog was found in the neighborhood of Grandview Avenue. And then people start writing in, oh, that reminds me of the dog I had when I was a little kid. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about, your first dog when you were a kid. We're just trying to find the owner of this dog. So sometimes comments get like really off track, but we don't disable the comments. So sure. It was kind of unusual that happened. So I know the mayor was going to look into it. I know the Borough Hall was closed today, so I don't know if he had an opportunity to look into it. I know Mayor Laurent, if you want to reply to that now, you did look into it, or when we reopen tomorrow, you're going to look into it, or whatever. I don't know if you want to reply to that right now, or.
I am following up on it to find out what the rules and regulations are.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Usually we don't bother doing that. I mean, we just, to my knowledge, when something's posted, it just stays open.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Mostly that Facebook page is mostly for informational and getting out to the public. But we're looking to find out what the policies are on our governmental Facebook page, whether we can have comments or not.
Sure. I just want to add one more thing. The way that would get litigated was it's not required to have comments on. So if the page originally didn't have comments, then there would be no issues. But it winds up being viewpoint discrimination when it's shut off during that time after I announced my candidacy. So since commenting was originally on, the way that would be fought out in court, which it should never have to go there, would be that it's viewpoint discrimination. And just also with when the police get the dogs and stuff like that, I hope we have animal controlled certified officers who are picking those dogs up, because if an officer gets bit or whatever, I mean, there's, protocols for these things, and that could be a liability for the borough as well. So just wanted to add that. So thank you for your time.
No, just so you know too, we also have a contract with, I forget what they're called now, but they used to be called the Plainfield Area Humane Society. They're our animal control officers. So
Cool.
I think the police department is where the animal ends up, as like temporarily, hoping that the owner comes forward in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. But yeah,
Sure.
and I think we do also have officer training, but we do have a contract with people who specialize in that. So
Awesome. Thank you for all your answers, Mayor and Skip. I appreciate you guys.
no, not at all, not at all. All right, additional public comment. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. We now go to the first item of new business.
All right. So as you noticed there, they were ready for that question. They were ready for that to be talked about. And, all I'm asking for them to do is follow the law. I'm not trying to give them a hard time. If I plan to work with these people, right, I don't want them to think I'm an agitator or anything like that. Although I feel like agitators are kind of good for the process. I think they help. Let me just turn this down. I think agitators actually make good elected officials better and can also kind of crack the weak. And if you're not willing to do what's expected of you in elected office, maybe you shouldn't be looking to seek that job out. So they seem to be on the same page with that. Hopefully they'll have it turned back on by tomorrow. I think I pretty much touched on everything I wanted to touch on with that. Even with the animal control safety officers or whatever, a lot of times the police, they'll pick up a dog that's lost and they'll throw them in the back seat. And if they're not animal control certified, that becomes a liability. Now, what happens if they wind up nabbing a suspect later on in the day and he's allergic to dogs and he winds up getting in the back of the car where there's dog hair and this and that? That's why there's procedures, and that's why there's certification processes. It's very important. So when I see these posts of police picking up animals, I look at them as possible liability issues for the city, for that exact reason, because it's one of those things that never gets, the procedures never get properly followed. So I didn't realize that this was I didn't realize that this was going to be public comments right in the beginning. So that was good. That was good that worked out. Let me just read a couple. Brandon Mitchell, what's up, brother? Chuck Bronson, what's up? But they were on, they have to stay on. Exactly. Good guy activism. What's up, brother? Yeah, and it's just shitty to do. It's just shitty to do, to disable comments, Skip Stable, the council president, he laughed when I said, let me lose with dignity. Clearly a lot of odds are against me, which is trying to get on the ballot. So don't make it that much harder by violating the law and deciding to disable comments. It never should have been done. And I'm hopeful that they're going to remedy this. And public comments is over. So that was short. He did laugh. Yes, he did laugh. And I think he's a decent guy. Last time I had asked them all by a show of hands who thinks that these meetings should be made available to the public. And only Mr. McIntyre, the vice president, who was acting as council president because Mr. Stable was absent, he's the only one who raised his hand and agreed, because these meetings are not filmed, right? Like the last meeting on Zoom, I had to Oprah request. I had to put a public records request in to get the meeting, which I then posted on my campaign page. So, I'm making these meetings available to the public because they're not made available. Interestingly enough, you know what I mean? So they're already probably upset that I'm doing things that they have the power to do and just chose not to do so far. So that's what we're doing with this campaign as well. We're making all these meetings available. If this was an in-person meeting, I would be there with all my cameras. I would record everything and post the meeting for the public to see what's going on. It's not a requirement in New Jersey that these meetings be filmed. But it should be a standard. It should be a standard that all municipalities work toward. If they're doing a good job, they should want the public to see. Otherwise everything's happening behind closed doors. So I think that's pretty much it. That was a little short, sweet meeting. I don't know if I need to necessarily run the rest of this live stream. I'll probably watch the rest of this here, but I said what I needed to say for tonight. What else we got here? And they seem like they're at least is a two-party system really democracy? You tell me what you think. The best thing I got going for me in terms of resources is time, right? Like I have a full-time job. I work Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. But on the weekends, I'm off. And my main goal for 2026 is to get on that ballot. So when it starts getting a little nicer out and the weather gets a little warmer, I'll be able to go door to door, do the campaign knock-in, get the petitions required to be put on the ballot. So the next step is to get on the ballot, and I'm gonna film the process of everything, even when I go to Somerset County, when I go to the Somerset County building to get the petition form. I'm even gonna film that. I'm gonna film everything. I'm gonna be nice because I know people in those buildings don't like to have when they see cameras, but I'll let them all know that the whole purpose of this is to document the whole process, so it can serve as a blueprint. Blueprint. Fucking blueprint. I'm stoned. Oh my God. It can serve as a blueprint, something for others to help use as a resource as to, okay, this is what you have to do, before you do this, you got to do that kind of thing. And just give people an opportunity, to see what I'm up against, What are you running? I'm running as an independent candidate for council at large here in North Plainfield, where I live. As I started saying before the meeting started, and then we all watched together, I've been doing the government accountability and transparency work since 2018 regularly, going to meetings. And people would say, why do you go to other towns? And the reason why I was going to other towns was because you can't touch me in that town. I don't live there. I don't work there. You can't retaliate against me. The things that residents want to say at these meetings mostly aren't willing to say them because of retaliation. Transparency and accountability. Right now, there's no transparency because nobody can see the meetings. So therefore, there's no accountability. And we should be able to see. They should be able to just put these meetings, film them, and put them online like where I live here in North Plainfield, within a 20-mile radius, pretty much every municipality has a system in place, like a YouTube channel, or on their township page where they post these meetings and people can, view them after they took place. So we obviously have no accountability, no transparency because we can't see what's going on, Nobody can watch the meeting unless you were there attending it in person. Over 20,000, a little bit over 20,000, maybe 22,000 people here. And what's good about North Plainfield here is they're council at large seats. So there is no districts. So I won't have to appeal to just like my general area. It's the whole borough. It's a council at large seat and it's for 4 years. And I'm going to do my best to try to get on that ballot. That's the next step, But with discouragement tactics, like the borough deciding that they're going to, disable comments and do it right after I mention I'm running to alert residents, obviously we have an issue there. I lived here for over about a year and a half. Ever since I started living here, right, I've always looked on that page. There was always comments available, always having the option. And that's why, I followed up with them and I told them, if the page never had comments turned on to begin with, they're fine. There is no First Amendment violation because there is no law requiring them to have comments turned on. But the second you turn them off, you have now stifled the First Amendment. You have now violated the law. And that's how that would get fought out in court. And it seems like all of them, with the way they responded, were all very aware of the way that would be argued and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure they're going to do the right thing because they know from my past with other municipalities that I follow through with things, even if it means filing a lawsuit. I've done that before. I prevailed, I've actually never lost a lawsuit that I've filed. So I'm sure if they did their homework, they've noticed these things and stuff. And, the last meeting that I wasn't able to attend, I was in Plainfield, one town over, and they wound up not doing anything about their stupid resolution where they, is a total conflict with the Constitution. These decorum issues, no singing, no dancing, no silence. Absolutely ridiculous. So all that got shut down. I don't have to return to Plainfield. And that's good because it's on the same night as North Plainfield meetings. So that's why I wasn't able to be at the last North Plainfield meeting. But I will be at every one for the rest of the year. And that's my primary focus for 2026. There's still other towns that I still have business in. Cranford is one of them. And that happens to be on the same night as Summit, New Jersey. Those are two towns that I still have business with. And it's a double header. They have the meeting on the same night. So this will be helpful because I can still do 2 meetings, or it'll wind up being, 2 meetings by month, every 2 weeks. I'll be able to still go to 2 meetings. They'll just be on the same night. Just keep pulling the double headers, man. Public comments in the beginning in Cranford. And then by the time that's over, I can shoot over to Summit and do public comments. So right now I'm just sticking with Cranford and Summit. Those are 2 municipalities that I still have unfinished business with. And then it gives me time to also focus on North Plainfield here and everything. So that's the plan, guys. That's the plan. We got a plan in place. And, we'll see what happens. And I guess that's about it. I appreciate all you guys for watching. Do you still have Bongholio? Yeah, I'm going to show you Bongholio right now, actually. I'm going to show you Bongholio right now, brother. You're going to love this. I keep Bongholio in his own personal closet here. There he is. Bongholio. There's Bongholio. And there's baby Bongholio. See the baby? A lot of shit in the way. But here's the baby. Look at this little dude. Look at the little baby. He is cool. Is he not cool? And he works too. Baby Bongholio. Well, big Bongholio works too. But yeah, that's baby Bongholio. When I showed up in Edison as Bongholio and the baby, they freaked out. They banned costumes, masks, props, performances. You guys know the story. And you all know how it ended. Didn't end well for them, and careers were lost. And I was more than happy to motivate them to help end their careers. And so I'll show you guys this. You guys will get a kick out of this. So the baby actually works. It actually works. There's a tube in here, right, that you pull out and you suck from. And there's a headpiece here. So there's a water chamber inside this. And it only remains level when the baby is held at that 45-degree motherly angle. The water will remain level. There's like a jar in there. So the bong only hits properly when the comfort needs of the baby are put first. So this bong is also a tool that helps soon mothers-to-be to learn how to put the needs of their baby first before they medicate. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. But yeah, I still got Bong Julio. Of course I do. He might show up in Cranford one of these meetings with the way things are going. They banned. They said you can't leave the podium and no sound systems. Right? They don't want people singing and dancing, but they're not as stupid to just try to ban singing and dancing. So they say you can't leave the podium, which is why I turned around at the podium. It's not even a podium; it's a lectern. I don't know if you guys saw the last speech that I made there. But there's no sound system allowed, no amplification. So it doesn't stop me from showing up as Bong Julio and playing a song on guitar because there's no amplification, no device that's amplifying sound. And that bong is like an X factor. It only comes out once in a blue moon these days. And when I do pull it out, it gets insane results. So stay tuned because that just might happen in Cranford. It all depends on how they go about all that, Clowns like circuses. So if these people want to act like clowns, right? Well, they're the ones who create the circus. Stop violating our rights. Stop saying we can't do this, we can't do that. Stop saying we have to do it this way, right? The whole dance party protest in Cranford is pretty simple to understand, and it's not just a protest. It's the vibe of a movement. It's people who are peacefully protesting this overreach of government, of an authority that they do not have. They're not censorship boards. So if they want to play these games, we can play these games. But I can't think of a more harmless, peaceful way to protest government overreach like that. Just allow people to have their time, right? Now, if I showed up in Edison as Bong Julio and did my whole spiel and they did nothing, I would have possibly maybe looked stupid, right? But no, they had me removed by police and they freaked out. And I have a whole bit with that. Like my wife's name's Pink Julio. Almost like treating it like we're going to have a comedy skit for the first part of my public comments. And then we're going to do a song toward the end. And those things only happen once all other avenues have been exhausted. Will didn't always start dancing at the meetings. They ignored his questions, meeting after meeting after meeting. He constantly was bringing up things that they refused to answer. So then he decided to just completely ignore them. And that's why you have what we have over there in Cranford. So again, the dance party is not just a protest. It's a movement of change. We're demanding change and we're doing it peacefully. And we want to live light. We don't want to live with a heavy darkness, which there's so much in the world. Meetings in general are like a heavy, dull, dark space. So we want to provide a little light, a little warmth, that feeling of community. So we're going to dance in the face of corruption. That's what it is. But you don't start there. That's where you end, It's incredibly sad when you think about it that you have to try to appeal to them in that way because they just don't fucking give a shit about answering your questions or anything like that. That's what we're left with. And Cranford is serving as an example of all municipalities in New Jersey that refuse to answer questions. And at least here in North Plainfield, they're willing to talk. No one shows up at these meetings. I'm the only person who was at the last meeting from the general public, besides a couple friends who had joined Zoom to watch me announce my candidacy. But every meeting that I've attended, there's nobody else here. It's nobody else there. It's just me. So they should be receptive. They should answer back. They should communicate like that with no problems. That's a good thing. You should encourage public participation. You shouldn't discourage these kinds of things by blocking comments, but they're going to do the right thing. I could tell. I could see it in their faces. I could hear it in their voices. They know that they're not doing the right thing with that. And I knew I wasn't going to get an answer as to who decided to do that. Like, who runs that page? Who gave the orders? Who decided to say, listen, block all comments, disable all comments? Something they never would have done in a million years unless I hadn't announced that I would be running, informing the residents of the possibility of a new candidate. How dare I, right? You know, and the council president, Skip Stable, his response about, you know, oh, well, a lot of times people are writing things that are just like that don't follow a standards. I don't know what standard he's talking about. It doesn't matter what people write. It doesn't matter if people decide that they're going to communicate whatever the hell it is that's on their mind. You know, it's just another example of stifling the First Amendment. You don't like what they said. You don't think that it falls within the required standard of what you should be saying. You know, we don't want to be told from government what you can say, when you can say it, where you can say it, how you can say it, who you should say it to. You know, that's the whole point. These fucking boards are not censorship boards, and it fucking frustrates me because at the end of the day, I follow rules that are in compliance with the law, right? So they have to follow them too. You know, it's really that simple. You know, I don't go to these meetings breaking rules, you know, like breaking the law. I might violate their rules, but their rules violate our Constitution. So, and I've said this a million times and I'll say it again. You're only as free in this country of knowing what the limitations of what you can and can't do are. So you just follow the law, and rules and policies mean nothing, you know, and words matter. That's when they say no stepping away from the podium. That's actually in the language. The borough attorney in Cranford wrote that, podium. And if you guys watched my last speech, you understand the point that I made. A podium is an elevated platform that a person stands on to elevate themselves. That's not what that is. That's a lectern. And a township attorney should know that. Words matter. Imagine telling the judge, if you said to somebody, I'm going to kill you. And then you go into court and you tell the judge, oh, well, what I really meant was I'm just so angry that, you know, you make me want to go crazy. But that's not what you said. So when you say no leaving the podium, there's no podium. It's a lectern. But it's amazing. It's amazing how these things just go on. Like everybody's like an idiot, you know? Absolutely wild. But so yeah, so that's the plan for the year, guys. We're going to be in North Plainfield fighting to get on the ballot, fighting to make sure that people can see these meetings. And we still have the unfinished business in Cranford and Summit. So stay tuned. I'm going to continue to do what I normally do, which is like produce a video of my latest council meeting like once a week, like on Saturday or Sunday. And the next couple weeks, I'm going to be posting some testimonies over the years that are somewhat relevant to maybe like what I'm doing now or whatever, with no fancy thumbnails, no, you know, production. I did that the last couple of days and the videos kind of started soaring. One's at like 66,000 or 68,000. Another one's at like 28,000. And they're just a testimony with no fancy thumbnail, you know, 4 or 5 minutes long. I wound up getting like 400 new subscribers in the last week just from posting regular testimonies. So for the purpose of expanding my message on this channel, and to work the algorithm a little bit, I'm going to be doing some more regularly posting of just some, you know, no fancy thumbnail testimonies over the years, some of the good ones, some of the ones that a lot of you probably haven't even seen, you know, stuff I haven't even posted before. You know, there's a lot of stuff. I have a catalog of things that most of you probably haven't even seen, even my faithful subscribers. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pump the algorithm. We're going to make sure that these videos get expanded to as many people. I want to get to that 5,000 sub club. That'll be a nice milestone mark. I'm at like 4,000, less than 4,300 right now. But last week I was at like 3,800. So like I said, I started playing around with these different, you know, ways to expand this channel and getting a lot of good results and stuff. So we're going to continue to do that for a little bit. But just letting all you know that that'll be a little bit of change that'll be coming up. So the only thing that's basically going to be changing is you're going to get more content. You're going to get more content. So I guess that's about it. You guys are the best. I always appreciate your encouragement and your kind words. And like I always tell even some of the people who always have constant criticism, we welcome any and all opinions on this channel. If you want to tell me that I'm acting like a child or I'm immature, I'll probably agree with you. But I welcome it. You know, I welcome all sides of any argument. You know, that's how you fight speech. That's how you fight bad speech with more better speech. You know, you don't ban, you don't censor, you know. So I welcome any and all opinions, especially the ones of criticism. You know, if anybody wants to tell me I'm doing this wrong or I'm doing that wrong, or just call me a moron or this and that, on this channel, we promote free speech. So we more than welcome ones of criticism. I'm a 55-year-old man-child. Yo, I'm immature as hell. Dude, I love to laugh. I love to laugh. And sometimes I don't care if I'm the only one laughing. You know, I live lightly, you know? I don't take myself as incredibly serious as a lot of people do. And that's how I choose to live my life. And a lot of that gets expressed through the work I do. Not to just keep repeating myself, but again, the space of council meetings are very dull and boring. If I decide I want to bring a little humor or a little performance or treat it like an art gallery where I can paint and present, or a theater class, whatever it may be, I'm going to do it. You know, even as a means to get people to pay attention where they otherwise wouldn't be paying attention to. You know, that's the whole point of it. That's the point of the work. And that's the point of doing it the way I do it. I love it when people say I'm an immature child. You have no idea how much I agree with that. You're not going to have me debating you on that. You know? But we should all live a little lighter and be kind to each other. Nobody's above or beneath you. People are next to you. You know, and right now we're living in a society where we are so politically colorblind. Everybody just sees red or blue, you know. God forbid you encourage somebody to, you know, think for themselves, have an independent thought, you know. And that's going to be the whole basis of my independent candidacy. Independent thinkers should start voting independent. You know, when I see the files, the e-files that are coming out, I see these people trying to politicize it, like as if it's one party's fault more than the other, or it's like this is only going on because of this administration or the Democrat. It's just, that is not an area where we need to be talking about political parties. It's making its way into everything, and it's ruining communities. It shouldn't even have party politics in local municipalities. That shouldn't even be part of the process to get elected. You know, it's divisive. It's divisive as hell. You know, instead of focusing on community issues, these elected officials are talking about national level division-based nonsense that they're bringing back into the community that just furthers divides people. You know, and the primary goal of why they do that is for, you know, personal and financial gain and opportunity. You know, and one of the things with my campaign, with the work I've been doing, man, there's a lot to sort through, right? I've dealt with a lot of smear tactics and smear campaigns against myself doing the work I do. So this will be no different while running, but it's kind of like, have your pick, you know? When you make yourself incredibly highly visible, at some point when someone continues to try to shame you, you know, it becomes very obvious. It's like the smearing's coming from people who won't say much because they have to stick by the script. They have to stick by the playbook, and they won't call out their people in their own political party because they have to work together, right? That's all not in the interest of the public, not in the interest of the community. So, so that's where we're at. That's where we're at with everything, guys. Appreciate each and every one of you. Stay tuned for some more videos coming up in the following week and everything. And other than that, I appreciate all of you. We got our own little nice community here on this channel, and you guys are always very encouraging with your opinions and your thoughts. So with that being said, I hope you all have a great night, and we will see each other soon.